For 2022, South Korea is ranked 6 of 140 out of the countries considered for the annual GFP review. It holds a PWR index score of 0.1261. A score of 0.0000 is considered perfect. According to the U.S. State Department, North Korea, a country of 25.8 million people, spends nearly a quarter of its gross domestic product (GDP) on its military, more than any other country in the world. South Korea's military is nearly 600,000 strong, about half the size of the North. South Korea maintains a large, well-equipped armed forces establishment, consisting of Army, Navy, and Air Force branches, although it is still considerably smaller than that of North Korea. The Army is by far the largest component, and there is a sizable reserve force. Military service is compulsory for all males. North Korea has one of the largest standing armies in the world, with more than 1 million army personnel and estimated reserves of some 600,000. Much of its equipment is old and obsolete, but its conventional forces could still inflict massive damage on South Korea in the event of war. Meanwhile, North Korea has become a nuclear power and Russia has continued to boost its military capabilities in Asia. In view of the escalated military preparedness across Northeast Asia, South Korea has acted more decisively than Japan in increasing its defense budget. North and South Korea have technically been at war ever since, backed by China and the US respectively, and locked in a tense relationship. Having made engagement with the North a cornerstone of his presidency, Mr. Moon has long advocated for a formal declaration to the end of the conflict. One of South Korea's major strategic challenges today is maintaining a diplomatic balance between its two major foreign partners, the United States and China. While its alliance with the US is vital to South Korea's strategic security, China is South Korea's largest trade partner. Japan and South Korea are neighbors, and they are both main allies of the United States in East Asia. Despite this, the relationship between the two states has greatly deteriorated in recent years, characterized by strong mutual distrust and a number of disputes. India-South Korea relations refers to the bilateral relations between India and South Korea. Formal establishment of diplomatic ties between the two countries occurred in 1973. Who won the Korean War? Neither side actually won the Korean War. In fact, the war goes on to this day, since the combatants never signed a peace treaty. South Korea did not even sign the armistice agreement of the 27th of July, 1953, and North Korea repudiated the armistice in 2013. The U.S. retained that authority until 1994, when South Korea assumed peacetime operational control of its forces. Under the current arrangement, the U.S. would still control certain aspects of South Korea's military if war broke out. For 2022, Iran is ranked 14 of 140 out of the countries considered for the annual GFP review. It holds a PWR index score of 0.2104. A score of 0.0000 is considered perfect. On paper, Iran's military has a number of advantages over Israel, particularly in the size of its military. Iran's population of 84 million is much larger than the roughly 9 million people in Israel, allowing Iran to field an active duty force of 525,000 troops, compared to Israel's 170,000. On paper, Iran's military has a number of advantages over Israel, particularly in the size of its military. Iran's population of 84 million is much larger than the roughly 9 million people in Israel, allowing Iran to field an active duty force of 525,000 troops, compared to Israel's 170,000. Iran is a regional and middle power, with a geopolitically strategic location in the Asian continent. It is a founding member of the United Nations, the ECO, the OIC, and the OPEC. It has large reserves of fossil fuels, including the world's second largest natural gas supply and the fourth largest proven oil reserves. The Iran-Israel proxy conflict, also known as the Iran-Israel proxy war or Iran-Israel Cold War, is an ongoing proxy war between Iran and Israel. The conflict involves threats and hostility by Iran's leaders against Israel, and their declared objective to dissolve the Jewish state by a popular referendum. Guided missiles of Iran include guided missiles designed, built, or operated in Iran. India and Israel are believed to use plutonium in their weapons, while Pakistan is thought to use highly enriched uranium. India, approximately 156 nuclear warheads. Israel, an estimated 90 nuclear warheads, with fissile material for up to 200. Pakistan, approximately 165 nuclear warheads. Even with that, South Korea would win.